Looking at an updated ninja deck, in my first ninja build, I suggested that ninjas could be an impressive archetype if they received at least one more quality monster and perhaps a quality ninjutsu card. Well, since then, they've received four new cards. How does that change the deck? Starting off with the older ninjas, I run two copies of Getsuga. Some prefer three copies, but I feel three copies dead draw too much because of a lack of ninjas in the graveyard to summon with its effect. Because you do need at least two, you just can't summon one. And if Getsuga is not summoning ninjas from the graveyard, it's just a 3000 unprotected defender at best, which most decks will get over rather easily. Also, because its summons is a tribute summons, not a special summons, it can get stuck in the hand from time to time, despite only needing to use a single ninja. Black Dragon Ninja, one of the aforementioned newer cards, is basically garbage. It is obviously supposed to be a transformation or Shogun target. However, its effect is quite lacking due to the level of resource consumption. If the effect banished from the graveyard for cost, it would be much better. The temporal nature of the banishment is also a problem, limiting its value mostly for endgame pushes, and there are a number of better, more reliable cards to use for endgame pushes. I would have liked to see this card as a 1700 attack level 4 monster instead of a restrictively bricky level 7. I think White Dragon has been power creeped, for there are too many cards that remove back row via sending to the graveyard, bouncing, spinning, or banishing, most notably Cosmic Cyclone, so the time of the infamous White Dragon safe zone combo has passed in my eyes, leaving little for White Dragon to do in ninjas, for, as I previously noted in my last build, White Dragon is definitely the odd ninja out in a sense, because it does not really do anything to support its brother and sister ninjas. The idea of protecting ninjutsu cards from destruction was rather lackluster in its inception because most of the ninjutsu cards are just flat out bad. Another new ninja in the fold, Jogen, is rather disappointing. First, the fact that he is a pendulum monster that goes to the extra deck instead of the graveyard when leaving the field is actually rather detrimental, heavily limiting the revival potential from Getsuga. The innate special summoning ability is useful to help Getsuga summoning, but the ninjutsu in hand condition can create some levels of inefficiency, either in execution or deck design. The piercing ability is just forgettable because piercing in general is rather uninspiring and almost pointless unless you have double damage piercing. Overall, this monster, in my opinion, would have been better as a non pendulum monster. However, all of that said, I still run one copy because it is a searchable scale 1. Yes, there can be those moments if you run multiples where you can summon multiples in a single turn with their innate special summoning effect and make some sort of play, but those events are low efficiency and really generally overall low value for pure ninja decks. My opinion on Red Dragon has not changed since my last build. If its effect was once per turn, it would be worth a single copy in the deck. But since it's on summons, even with Getsuga recycling, it is just not worth of it. All the inconsistency and lack of punch. In a sense, if you really are concerned about back row, you're just better off running something like Cosmic Cyclone or Twin Twister. Silver Ninja has lost most of its value due to Getsuga replacing it, and the game being just too fast for a tribute monster that is a flip effect without a complementary deck design. Chunin is definitely worth one copy as a solid protector and having the ability to get over higher attack monsters. Due to the searching and general speed of the deck, it is not difficult to get him into the hand when his talents are needed, and you then avoid drawing him when he's kind of a bricky card. However, at multiple copies, he can get a little too inconsistent, even in a deck with reliable pendulums. Well, at least card designers learned from Blue Dragon when making Black Dragon, for Black Dragon can use ninjas and ninjutsu cards on the field as well as from the hand, but they didn't seem to learn enough, and fat lot of good that does Blue Dragon. While his effect is rather nice, it's just too costly in resources and efficiency, especially when a card like Lost Wind exists, which is just a lot better. Blue Dragon, meet power creep. In my past build, Earth Armor had a central role in helping the summons of Getsuga, more out of necessity more than efficiency. However, times have changed, and being a tribute monster with a Cyber Dragon special summons condition and basically nothing else going for it, and still a rather low attack power considering the fact that it is a tribute monster, there are better options for the deck, so Earth gets the cutting room floor, so to speak. Grandmaster Suzuki can be a nice card at one copy, removing those large defensive barriers, but I think there are better choices for the way I play this deck, and most players tend not to play defensively, and putting in cards to put things in defense position is typically just a waste of time, in my opinion. 3 copies of Hanzo are basically mandatory in any self-respecting ninja deck, no matter what the type of build. The searching capacity, both when normal or special flip summoned, helps jumpstart a lot of speed and combo potential for the deck. Its dark attribute and level 4 standing are also significant bonuses for this deck when making extra deck play. Strike Ninja is one of those cards that seems to have forgotten potential in a sense. It's just waiting for a nice combo card to release its potential, almost in the sense of better DD Scout Plane version 2, for Scout Plane has long been power creeped out of the game. With no Earth Armor ninjas in the deck, the level changing ability of Flame Armor to make possible rank 5 plays has lost a lot of its value. So, no Flame Armors, for there are just better choices. Mr. Gallant Ninja can be an interesting side deck choice against combo or slower opposing decks, but overall, even with Abisu's combination potential, it's just not good enough. Like before my first build, White Ninja is just far too substandard to run. Flip effects are too slow, and throwing defense position monsters is almost needlessly pointless, especially when Grandmaster exists for this deck. Finally, another good ninja. They're so far and few between. Shingetsu is almost a must at 3 copies because of its target and attack magnet ability, help protect Getsuga. Also, based on the wording of the effect, a pair of Shingetsu on the field at the same time prevent the opponent from attacking or targeting any ninjas. Finally, the search effect is definitely a boon for hastening the acquisition of a Hanzo or a Getsuga. Air Armor Ninja is still as worthless in my eyes as it's always been. I would run 1 copy of Abusu as a means to magnet Solemns to help support Getsuga's effect, as well as clear the way for large damage flood attacks if it was able to return equal or less than. But nope, in another bad ninja design decision by Konami, Abusu can only return equal numbers of back row to the ninjas on the field. You have 4 ninjas, your opponent has 3 back row. Too bad, can't use Abusu's effect because that makes a lot of sense. So unfortunately, Abusu has become wonderfully inefficient and ineffective. Aqua Armor is a so-so card, but without the ability to end the battle phase, it only stops a single attack, or the lack of a secondary effect, the card lacks real value in the deck, especially when it just has such low attack power to start with. Again, there are just better generic choices. So there's almost no real reason to even consider Aqua Armor other than, well, I guess he has ninja in its name, and that's just not good enough. I'm not a supporter of Golden Ninja, for its ninja-based Summoner Monk effect is too easily snuffed out in the modern meta, but for lack of better options, for the deck does need ninjas, the ninja name and the potential for making a 4 material number 86 a little easier because of that special summons effect, I begrudgingly run 2 copies of Golden Ninja. Lady Ninja Yi is really bad for this deck, better suited for wind-based decks than ninja-based decks, and I'm not even sure she's suited for wind-based decks at all. The baby ninjas, Armed and Crimson ninjas, are a waste of time, for they are basically dead draws. The only value either of these monsters have is arriving on the field en masse off of a duplication. The problem with that strategy is, while duplication is a fantastic card, once again, Konami's let's screw over ninjas mindset rears its ugly head. Duplication can only summon from the deck, not the deck, graveyard, maybe the hand. Thus, the dead draw potential, as mentioned for both Armed and Crimson, is incredibly high, and if you start dead drawing any real level with this deck, you're in trouble. The final new monster is Far and away the most useful of the three, Kagen is a pendulum monster that actually has a good pendulum effect, foregoing the almost pointless piercing of Jogen for an attack power increase of 1,000 once per turn when a ninja attacks. Definitely a useful effect for a somewhat attack-deprived archetype. Its scale of 10 is also quite useful. This high scale is especially meaningful given another monster in this deck. The only ninja summoning condition is annoying, limiting the value of a card like Transformation, but certainly understandable and par for the course, as other archetypes definitely have these conditions as well on their high scale. Unfortunately, Kagan's level 1 standing makes it almost impossible to summon from the extra deck, but ironically, in a sense, fortunately, its monster effect is rather pathetic and it has 0 attack power, so I'm not overly sure why you'd want to be summoning it from the extra deck, other than it's just an extra 2,000 body. However, though, its pendulum standing and ninja name is definitely good enough to warrant 3 copies. For the newest Ninjitsu card, Notebook is solid, but not great, largely because, as mentioned in my first build, most of the Ninjitsu cards are just flat out bad, so Notebook's searching ability has a lot of wasted potential. Notebook is what I like to call a ladder card. It can only get better with time if better search targets are revealed. Whether or not that'll happen, probably unlikely. However, thanks to the existence of Alchemy, I run 2 copies of Notebook. Speaking of Alchemy, until Notebook was released, it really was worth nothing. It was kind of trash. Basically, it was completely outclassed by a card like Magic Planter. The fact that you could search for it with Hanzo was irrelevant in a sense because largely you'd be searching for better ninjutsu. However, due to Notebook's searching ability, Alchemy becomes a quasi-destiny draw in its combination. Also, with Master Rule 4 changing the location of the Pendulum Zone and ninjas now having Pendulum monsters, the ability to remove spent ninjutsu cards on the field becomes much more important. So I run 2 copies of Alchemy. If Fuma Shuriken were searchable, i.e. it was a ninjutsu card, then 1 copy would have been a very interesting and fun, especially with that damage effect when it gets kicked off the field. However, not being searchable basically makes this card worthless. Rust Mist is still one of the best ninjutsu cards with its continuous ability to lower opponent special summon monster attack, and this is not even relatively speaking, this is just a good effect, period. And due to the searchable nature of Rust Mist, I do only run 1 copy because multiple copies can be pretty bricky and inefficient because only that initial first halving of attack power means something. Sure, you get a little extra damage, but for the inefficiency produced, it's just not worth it in my opinion. Some people like Shadow Sealing. Outside of its searchable nature, I don't understand why. There are just much better generic traps that can be run over Sealing, and there are just better ninjutsus that can be initially searched via Hanzo or Notebook. Duplication is still a strong defensive and offensive tool in the deck to increase efficiency or defense. Also, a Getsuga can be made into a pair of level 4 ninjas for XE playmaking, like a number 86 or a Shingetsu lock. The secondary usefulness of duplication being a trap means I can swing with the ninja, activate duplication, sub that ninja out for another ninja, and then swing with that new ninja for additional extra damage, which comes in handy from time to time. I only run 2 copies instead of 3 copies now, though, because despite duplication still being a great card, I needed to make room for some other cards. Freezing is basically worthless. There are just so many better generic choices. Koi is even more worthless than freezing and should be completely avoided. The transformations are nice in specific builds, but not in a pure build like this one, because with Kagen's ninja-only condition on its pendulum summoning ability, the summoned creature off the transformation is typically only a one-shot, and the available options for transformation out there are typically not worth the potential brickiness they create when drawn, especially Super Transformation, which, while a nice card, once again, the Let's Screw Ninjas Over think tank Konami said, let's make this only summon from the deck instead of the deck or the hand. I suppose they are trying to balance out the fact that you grab an opponent's monster in the process, but Ooh, that just made super transformation really inefficient, in my opinion. Overall, the transformations are just better suited for hybrids, and this is more of a pure build, so I skip both of them. The simple reality is most of these ninjutsu cards aren't going to be worth anything until Konami comes out with a card that produces effects based on the number of ninjutsu cards with different names in the graveyard or your hand or on the field or something like that. Otherwise, so many of these ninjutsu cards are just trash in general or have been power crept to the point where generic options just crush them in usefulness. Finishing up the monsters, I run 3 copies of Dragodies, the Empowered Warrior, who might as well be an honorary ninja for the usefulness of his effect. He has a pendulum scale of 2, which works great with Kagen's scale of 10, allowing ninja summoning of anything that is not a level 1. His pendulum effect is actually very useful, turning the hand advantage that you consistently can create with Hanzo into almost battle invincible monsters on the field, with his 1/2 the opponent attack during battle effect. Unlike Kagen's effect, the opponent could be swinging into you and you can still activate this effect. Also, the attack reduction effect is permanent, which means even if the opponent drops a card like Honest on the first attack, once Honest's effect wears off, it'll be sitting there with half the attack if you activated this guy's effect, making it much easier to kill later on in the duel. Finally, its on-field effect allows almost any monster in this deck to be searched at the end phase, including Hanzo, Shingetsu, or Getsuga. If only we could just slide ninja into this guy's name somewhere. That would be great, but unfortunately, that's not possible. Finally, I run 1 copy of Eater of Millions to supplement the removal of anti-destruction effects, which this deck can certainly struggle to get over. For the remaining spells, I run 1 copy of Raigeki for field clearance, 1 copy of Darkhole for secondary field clearance, 1 copy of Upstart Goblin for consistency and speed, 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army for, shocker, searching and speed, 2 copies of Twin Twister to help shield Getsuga from all that nasty back row, especially those solemns. For the traps, I run 1 copy of my staple, Torrential Tribute, 2 copies of Lost Wind to protect Getsuga from pesky monster effects and make things easier to kill when an attack boost is not available for some odd reason, because most of the time it will be available either from Dragodies or Kagen. And 2 copies of Back to the Front to revive Getsuga, or even a Hanzo during the end phase to get a search, or heck, even a Shingetsu to patch up the lock. Finally, there are 3 spots left in the deck. Well, obviously the best choice right now for these 3 remaining deck spots are 3 copies of Evenly Matched. However, if one wants to actually keep money in his or her wallet for the foreseeable future, a cheaper board protector would be warranted. Book of Eclipse, Blind Obliteration, or a Mirror Force variant. I prefer 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. For the extra deck, I run 1 number S39 Utopia the Lightning, 1 number 39 Utopia, 1 number 66 Master Key Beetle, very nice at being able to provide a little additional protection for Getsuga, 1 number 103 Ragna 0, both Rust and Draco can reduce the attack, activating 103's effect, 1 Blade Armor Ninja, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 number 41 Bagooska, 1 Heroic Champion Gondiva, 2 Castel the Sky Blaster Musketeers, 1 Gaga Cowboy, 1 number 86 Heroic Champion, 1 Barrelo Dragon, 1 Ashik Magician, and 1 Proxy Dragon. I shy away from link monsters in this deck because there are not a lot of good generic options versus some of the Warrior-only XZ monsters. When you compare the two, the Warrior XZ monsters still have the advantage over most of the link monsters that this deck can reliably spit out. For while Getsuga can summon 2 ninjas per turn off its effect, it is difficult to make multiple links in a single turn, unlike some of the loop link decks. And let's be real, very little from the extra deck beats a 4 material number 86. It is worth noting that the Ninja engine is rather effective in a Pendulum Magician build. It could be argued the Magician build seen here, for example, is a better deck overall than the pure Ninja build because of the higher variety of consistency and playmaking the Pendulum Magician cards provide, including the Pendulum Graft and the ability to summon Avian, which has bounced itself back to the hand after negation. And the summons of this Avian can be significantly hastened via transformation. You don't have to worry about potentially bricking by running 2 or 3 Avian. You can just run the transformation in the Hanzos. However, this deck does come off more Pendulum Magician rather than Ninja. The Ninja component really is just an engine. Overall, from a pure standpoint, ninjas still need that one more quality monster to really jump to the next level of competitiveness. Kagen was a nice step, but the other 3 new cards really were nothing to write home about in the end. Still, though, this deck can be somewhat competitive and is fairly fun to play. Well, that's my ninja deck. Thanks for your attention and your time. I'm out.